Well, hey there, YouTube. PD Two Finger here, plagiarizing jokes found on the Old Jews Telling Jokes video. So we have this rich, wealthy young entrepreneur in his bag. His thing that he likes to do is collecting unique pets. He has geckos and praying mantis, all kinds of really weird stuff that he keeps as house pets. And he likes to show off his collection to his friends. So he finds this exotic pet store. That's their specialty. He heads over. He says, "Look, I'm not a beginner to this. I've got a pretty decent collection. What I'm looking for is something that's really going to knock people's socks off today." So the shop owner looks at him and says, "I think I have just a thing. Coming back." He says, "It's the talking centipede. And it not only can it carry on intelligent conversation, it can sing opera, operetta, whatever you'd like." So he brings him in the back. He meets the centipede. They're having an intelligent conversation. He even sings a little operetta to him. And the guy says, "I can't believe it. I love it. Wrap him up. I'm taking him home. I don't care what the cost is." So he comes with the cage. He's wrapping him up. He's got a little house where the centipede lives. So he takes him home. They're having a heck of a time. He's talking to him. Really, the centipede's smart. And he can sing. So he says to him, "I have an idea. I'd like to take you down to the bar. We can have a couple of drinks. You can tell some stories. You can meet the guys, maybe even sing a little bit. They're going to love you." And there's no answer. So he says, "I don't know if you heard me. I'd like to take you down to the bar. If you'd like to come, have a couple of drinks. You can meet the guys. You can sing a little bit. They're going to love you." And there's no answer. So by this time, the guy's starting to get really frustrated. He takes the lid off of the cage. Bang, 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 bang on the little house where the centipede lives. Bang, 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 bang. And just then the centipede sticks his head out the window and says, "I heard you the first time. I'm putting on my shoes." Elderly couple in the supermarket. But she has a problem. She likes to steal things. She's a bit of a kleptomaniac, so she steals a can of fruit, and she's caught, taken before the magistrate. The magistrate looks at her and says, "Sarah, what did you steal?" And she says, "Your Honor, I took one can of fruit." The magistrate looks at her and says, "What type of fruit was it, Sarah?" And she says, "It was a can of peaches." And the magistrate looks down and he says, "How many peaches were in the can, Sarah?" And she says, "It was, I believe, 6 peaches in the can, Your Honor." And he says, "Sarah, you are sentenced to 6 days in jail." And that's final. And he wraps his gavel down. Sarah puts her head down and says, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" Just then her husband stands up and says, "Your Honor, I believe she also stole a can of peas." So again, our subject is an elderly man. He's about to head south for the winter, fly to Florida, and he has a doctor's appointment. So he approaches the doctor and he says, I have a bit of a problem. It's kind of embarrassing. I need to talk to you about it. It's been having these noxious gas eruptions. The other day, we were at the Grossman's for bridge, my wife and I had between 6 or 8 of these noxious gas emissions. Thank goodness they're silent, but it creates a bit of a pungent aroma, and it's embarrassing. And then, of course, the next night at dinner, same thing, 6 or 8 of these silent, noxious, gaseous emissions. And even as a matter of fact, as I stand before you here today, I've had several of these silent, noxious, gaseous emissions. And the doctor says to him, "Well, first thing we need to do is get you to a hearing specialist." Our next subject is driving down a desert highway. He sees a sign, "Talking dog, this exit." This guy has nothing better to do that day, so he pulls over, goes inside. There's a guy standing in front of a thing, and he says, "Excuse me, I'm here to see the talking dog." And he says, "Well, right this way." So he goes behind the thing, and there he is, this mangy old flea-bitten mutt scratching himself. The guy leans over and says, "Excuse me, but are you the talking dog?" And the dog looks him in the eye and says, "Why, yes, I am." The guy says, "I can't believe this. Who taught you how to talk?" And the dog looks at him and says, well, there's really not much I can say about that. I was born as a puppy. All the other dogs were barking and howling, and I could just talk. He says, this is amazing. Did you do anything special with this unique talent of yours? He says, well, as a matter of fact, I did some work for the CIA. And he says, you gotta be kidding me. Tell me more. He says, well, I went overseas. I went to Russia, to Prague, ended up in Moscow. And people just trusted me, so they would talk. I would return home to my handler, report in, and we had countless intelligence coups. It's really something that we just don't talk about, but I've saved many lives, and this country owes me quite a huge debt. He says, I just can't believe I've never heard of anything like this. Did you do anything after the CIA? He said, well, as a matter of fact, I went over to London to the court of St. James. I worked with MI5, MI6, co-opted into the Mossad, did some wet works in Syria and Afghanistan. And the guy says, hold on. So he goes around the corner and he says to the guy, you wouldn't be willing to part with this dog. I've simply got to have him. And the guy said, yeah, I'll sell him. And he says, what's the price? And he says, I'll sell him to you for 10. The guy says, 10,000? He says, no, $10. And the guy says, well, this is incredible. It's this incredible dog for $10? He says, that dog never went any of those places. He's full of shit. Three elderly gentlemen on a sun-baked island. The first guy says, boy, this is terrible. I'm 85 years old. I wake up 7 o'clock. I go to urinate. I'm pushing, I'm squeezing, I'm grunting, and maybe a little trickle. I hate getting old. The second guy goes, I know what you mean. I wake up, to go to move the bowels. I'm pushing, I'm grunting, I'm pushing, and maybe some raisins on a good day. And the third guy says, yeah, this is really bad. Every day, 7 o'clock, I pee like a golden fountain. Then 8 o'clock, huge bowel movement, juicy, plump. And the second guy says, well, what's the problem? And he says, I don't get out of bed until 9 o'clock. Woman appears at the local greengrocer demanding a pound of broccoli. The greengrocer responds, oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. We just ran out of broccoli. Would you care for a pound of spinach? She says, sure, I'll take a pound of broccoli, please. He says, oh no, I'm afraid. Could I offer you a 1 pound of string beans? And the woman says, no, I'd like a pound of broccoli, please. He says, could I offer you a pound of asparagus? She says, 1 pound of broccoli will be just fine, thank you. Perplexed, the greengrocer approaches her and says, ma'am, I'm going to ask you to spell cat as in catastrophic. She says, C-A-T. He says, now I'd like you to spell dog as in dogmatic. Perplexed, she says, D-O-G. And the greengrocer looks at her and says, now I would like you to spell fuck as in broccoli. There's no fucking broccoli. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Guy goes to his doctor. The doctor says, look, I don't know how to tell you this, but you've just got to stop masturbating. The guy says, why? The doctor says, so I can examine you.